Hi and welcome back. I'm Antoinette Trimble, a registered architect working in the commercial and education sector.
And I'm Allison Tsao, an organization development practitioner. In our last video, we covered educating the client. Today, we're going deeper on setting clear expectations, specifically around fees, the cost of works conversation, and how you set up your working relationship from day one.
These are the conversations architects often rush and the ones that cause the most problems. Let's get into it. We introduced the client architect agreement in the previous video. One thing we can't stress enough is having a client architect agreement isn't just best practice. In Victoria, it's a professional requirement under Clause 6 of the Code of Professional Conduct. Rather than emailing it and asking for a signature, sit down and talk it through together and answer any questions they may have. This will help set clear expectations about the process ahead.
And hold on to that because the same applies to everything we're about to cover. Fees, changes, ways of working, the agreement is where all of it gets documented. Let's talk about fees first. In my experience, the conversations that do the most damage to professional relationships are the ones that were never had clearly upfront, and fees are at the top of that list.
As architects, we're often uncomfortable talking about money, but it really does us a disservice. Clients need to understand what the architect's professional fee covers, and just as importantly, what it doesn't. The code requires you to give a clear and unambiguous statement of how professional fees will be calculated and reasonable estimates of other costs, known as disbursements, including council and regulatory fees, travel, consultant fees, planning and permit costs, levies, and things like a quantity surveyor. A simple one-page breakdown of these fees and costs early on can prevent enormous confusion. And be clear about your fee structure, whether it's a percentage, lump sum, or an hourly rate. You could ask directly, would it help if I explained how our fee is calculated? Most clients say yes. They're often too embarrassed to ask.
And what about the question every client asks before the design has even started? What's this cost to build?
Okay, this is one of the most important conversations to get right and the source of many complaints to the ARBV. If providing a cost estimate is outside your area of expertise and experience, get a professional cost estimate from a quantity surveyor or from the market, from builders via a tender. Not providing an estimate yourself isn't a sign of weakness. It's good professional judgment to call upon expertise and experience of others when needed. There are 3 other things you can do when talking about building costs. Earlier the better. Number 1, give some context on cost. For example, share that construction costs across Victoria have escalated significantly in recent years due to supply chain disruptions, etc. Number 2, understand expectations. Be aware that a client may be budgeting based on what a friend paid 5 years ago and may be operating with completely unrealistic expectations. So ask open questions to understand their views on costs. Number 3, you can also offer guidance that may reduce costs around the design. For example, a simpler roof form, a more compact footprint is a way you can save money. Just never put specific numbers on the build. Instead, get tender prices from builders so you have a good market sounding and a range of prices. The last area rarely appears in any formal agreement, but it makes an enormous difference to how a project actually feels day to day. At your first or second meeting, set aside 15 minutes to explicitly discuss how you'll work together.
Cover things like how often will we meet and in what format? Who is the primary contact on the client side? And who has authority to make decisions? What's the expected turnaround for feedback and approvals? How do we prefer to communicate? You could frame it as, before we get into a project, I'd love to spend a few minutes on how we're going to work together. In my experience, projects go much more smoothly when we've aligned on this upfront. That signals immediately that you're a professional who thinks about relationships, not just buildings.
And if the project evolves significantly, revisit it. How's this working for you? Is there anything about how we're communicating you'd like to adjust? That kind of check-in really builds trust that's real.
To recap, setting clear expectations comes down to 4 things. Understand the agreement is a professional obligation under Clause 6, not just paperwork. Be transparent about fees and what they cover. Only give a cost advice if you have the expertise or seek others' expertise. And have an explicit conversation early about how you'll work together.
The theme across all points is the same: clarity up front, documented in writing. It protects everyone and creates the conditions for a genuinely collaborative relationship.
Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.